Hey everybody, today we're going to do a little demo on how to create your own custom lenses for Instagram, which is a lot easier than I thought. So the first thing you'll do is download two pieces of software, and as I record this, we're in the throes of the COVID-19 crisis. So there's a lot of software that's more easily available than it once was as companies try to make sure that they stay relevant when everyone's working at home. So one thing you can do is to download Rhinoceros. Now, even if you don't know how to use Rhino, we can wash files that you find elsewhere through Rhino to wind up at this FBX file format. So you can see here, if you Google FBX converter, there's lots of options online, and I haven't experimented with these, but it's certainly possible that you could download an object from Thingiverse or something like that, like an STL, run it through an FBX converter and be all done. But we may do this in Rhino as well. And for my students that already know how to use Rhino, you can make any object you want. In this particular demo, I'm going to be making an augmented reality lens for a unicorn horn. So you can see here that right now downloads of the free Rhino are a full evaluation version for 90 days. So that'll work for a little while. And then you can also download AR Studio, which is sparkar.facebook.com. And in order to get this done, you also need to have both a Facebook account and an Instagram account for this to work. I should also caution that right now during COVID-19, they don't have people assessing the lenses, so apparently you can't just upload any old lens. The lens has to go through some sort of assessment process to make sure, I don't know, it's not sexually explicit or something like that. It's in comportment with their policies. So we can get everything done and we can test it locally, but we're not necessarily going to be able to get these online until a later date. Okay, so once you have this stuff downloaded, I'm going to go over here to Rhino, and you can see that I've already created a model. I went ahead and did some fancy stuff, so I've got this sort of twisted unicorn horn that also has a texture applied to it. Textures aren't required, but they certainly make things look nice. And really, any object that you can create is going to work for this. So I've put my object here on the origin. The scale doesn't really matter because we can change that around once we get into AR Studio. So once I've crafted my object here, I just go to File, Export, and of course Rhino has a ton of export options. So I scroll down near the bottom and we're looking for FBX. Here we are. So Motion Builder is the term they attach to the FBX. So that's the file type you'll want to push this out as, and you can see I've already done it. I have this file here called horn2.fbx. Okay, so again, if you're one of my students, this is the chance where you can really go nuts and make whatever object you like. If you want to just work with preloaded stuff from Thingiverse, you can experiment there, and you can also bring things into Mesh Mixer, for example, to do mashups and that sort of thing. Okay, so we've prepared our FBX. Now I'm going to switch over to AR Studio, which is free software all the time, I think, COVID-19 notwithstanding. And I'll skip this for right now for the update. Okay, so let's see. So if we take a look, if you're an avid Instagram user, you're probably familiar with a lot of these types of AR experiments. So for example, you can change eye color. You can do neck decoration as opposed to face decoration, head decoration, and so forth. So you can experiment with all of these, and I'm just going to show you one particular approach, but if you want to work outside of that, I really recommend it. So I'll go down here to a head decoration, and I'll click on it. And it's going to take me through some suggestions of how to get things done. I've already done this myself, so I'll just close these out and I'll show you what I did. Okay, so right now we have this demo recording here of this fellow making different facial expressions, and it's attaching a head, or rather a hat to him. So I can come in here and just say the delete me hat, right-click it, and say delete. And now we're going to add in our own thing. So down here at the bottom on the left, I will click on Add Asset and Import from Computer. And then we'll go to Horn FBX and open it up. And then you'll see here I've got my horn, and if you apply a texture, it'll come through as well. Now I will drag horn.fbx up to the drag here place. And you can see initially I get this sort of like monster birthday hat, so we need to change this thing around a little bit. Okay, so first of all, the scale is at issue. You can see over here on the right-hand side, I have transformations for position, scale, and rotation. So each one of these that I want to mess with, I'll click on the little arrow. And what that'll do down here in the so-called patch editor is give me a place to make that edit. So it will seem like you should be able to edit the numbers right here, but you actually want to head down here. And for the scale, let's do something, in my case, like 0.05, 0.05, and 0.05. Okay, that's way too small. All right, so we're going to have to make that, maybe it's going to be like 0.2. This might work. And 0.2. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. I don't know, something slightly larger might be funnier, but I'm going to stick with that for right now. Okay, so there's my scale. Now I'm also going to come in here with rotation. And I want to rotate around, I believe it's the x-axis. Let's do 90 degrees, and we get that horn pointing out. And you can see if I sort of zoom in on this space that right now the horn's a little bit too far back into space. That's why it's being clipped by this fellow's head, although that's kind of a cool effect. So I rotate it out, and then I can also change it in its position. So I believe coming in and out right here, I'm not entirely sure which axis that is. I think that's Z. So let's mess around with Z a little bit. Like if I say Z3, whoop, where'd it go? Okay, that was way too far. So Z might just be like 0.01 or something like that. Okay. So, you know, it's all going to depend on the stuff that you bring in, so you'll have to noodle with this a little bit. I think I also want to move this thing down in Y, so maybe like negative 0.1. We can give him a big nose. Let's switch that to 0.25. You know, so we mess around with this. It's going to look a little bit weird on this screen, but if you see it right over here, it's actually starting to come together. I might rotate this so it's pointing up a little bit more. Ah, now that's starting to look pretty good. Okay, now I've turned off the camera that was looking at me during the recording. Let's go ahead and open up AR Studio again. Okay. Open recent, head decoration, yes, yes. Camera, FaceTime, HD camera. Oh, it worked. So there I am with my beautiful unicorn horn. And it tracks pretty well. I'm kind of harder to track because of my beard and so forth, so particularly clean-shaven people and people that don't have glasses, I find tend to track extra well. Okay, so that's the basic idea. You know, I just made a really simple model, which is just kind of a goof. But if you get in there, you can experiment with all sorts of different strategies. So you don't just have to stick to something as simple as I did. Now, if you love it and you're ready to push it out into the world, you can go down here to upload, and it'll check through there. It'll make sure it's not too big, and it'll make sure it'll work on all sorts of different phone environments. I don't know why it's taking so long to calculate. Anyway, once that's done, you can say upload, and of course, not until you press upload does it take you to the website where it says, the big gotcha is that due to COVID-19, the review committee is not currently active, so they make no promises in terms of when you can get this up online. However, you can record just a little picture of yourself messing with it. For example, if you're on a Mac and you open up QuickTime, you can record your own computer screen, or you can, take a picture or video with a cell phone or something, get creative in that regard. So it's this stage right here, just this visual demonstration that you've got it working, that you want to get to.